set? Okay, we're reconvening our meeting in open session. We just finished an executive session for the purposes of discussing collective bargaining. So our first order of business, as always in open session, is to see if there's anybody who wishes to be heard from the public on any item not on the agenda tonight. Okay, seeing no one. Next, we'll move to our student report, and tonight we have Jackie Lanzaro. Jackie?
Thank you. For sports, girls lacrosse lost against both Ipswich and Masco over vacation. However, boys lacrosse beat Ipswich 10-3 on Tuesday, lost to Bedford 9-6 on Thursday, and beat Haverhill 11-2 on Saturday. Both the boys and girls tennis team lost to Manchester Essex on Monday, but won against Austin Prep on Tuesday. Baseball won all 4 of its games this vacation, with 3-1 against Saugus on Monday, 11-2 against Manchester Essex on Tuesday, 5-4 against Georgetown on Thursday, and 12-2 against Rockport on Friday. Softball also won all of its games. Last Saturday, they beat Phillips Academy twice in a doubleheader. On Monday, they beat Malden. On Thursday, they beat Phillips once again. And on Friday, they beat Masco. For track, the girls' team is undefeated, and the boys' team has a record of 2-4. They have a meet this Wednesday at home. Student Council has also been up to a lot these past few weeks. The Thursday before vacation, they attended the NEMAS Spring Conference at Gloucester High School, and NEMAS stands for the Northeastern Massachusetts Association of Student Councils. Everyone had a great time and did a great job campaigning for me, but unfortunately I lost my election for NEMAS president.
Could we have voted?
What?
Could we have voted? You should have let us know.
I wish. The Friday before vacation, they hosted a Teacher and Staff Appreciation Day. The council brought in baked goods for the Teacher's Lounge and raffled off a basket of school supplies. This Saturday, the council is also hosting the NEMAS dance at our high school to fundraise the Nickels for Nails program of Habitat for Humanity. The college fair is this Wednesday in the high school gym from 6:30 to 8:30. The SATs are this Saturday, and AP exams begin next week. Also, the date for the Relay for Life is May 30th.
Not many days of school left, especially for the seniors, right?
Yeah, seniors, it's not a lot.
Seniors have like a month.
Yeah.
Any questions for Jack? Do you have schoolwork?
Yes.
Okay.
So for today, I brought in the Student Council's Book of Excellence, which is right here, and there's a lot in there. This year at the MASC Spring Conference, the council was awarded a Silver Council of Excellence because of this book. In the binder, there is a wide variety of information pertaining to the council. In the beginning of the book, there is a letter from the principal, a letter from the council president, information about our school, the council's constitution, a list of meeting dates, different policies that the council has, and more. Then, the second half of the book is separated by different indicators. For each indicator, the council has to provide examples of the different events they sponsor that meet the indicator. Some indicators include spirit activities, community service programs, fundraising, and leadership training. This book is judged by the MASC Executive Board at the conference according to a specific rubric. This is actually only the second year that North Reading High School has ever submitted a Book of Excellence because, as you can see, it's a lot of work. The council has been working on this book for a few years now, and we were beyond excited to move up in our rankings since last year we were a Bronze Council of Excellence.
Very good. Can you leave that here for us to look at, and we can give it to the superintendent at the end of the night? She
Yep.
can get it back to you. How long did it take to put that together?
We started my freshman year, so that was 3 years ago, and last year was the first year we submitted one, so. This year was a lot easier, though, because we just had to modify some of the information, but the first year was really tough.
And it's the whole student council that participates in putting it together?
Mostly. We have a separate committee of about 10 students, like the officers, which is 5 students, and then extra 5 students that work more closely to put it together.
Well, like everything else, I think next year you'll win the gold because you'll be putting it together in the new school. And we all know that everything in the new school is going to improve everything by 20%. So you have to win the gold next year.
At least it better improve
Right.
everything.
That's what we're hoping. Any other questions for Jackie? Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we're going to move to new business. And tonight we have an exciting presentation and a discussion with and from the trustees of the Eleanor C. Dell Trust, and whoever is going to, I'll turn it over to Kathy, and then whoever's going to take the lead from that group can step up to the microphone. Kathy?
Thank you. Tonight we have a very exciting presentation that will be made to the school committee, and I'm going to ask Mr. John Bernard to introduce the first person that will be part of the presentation made to the committee this evening. Mr. Bernard?
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Good evening to all of you. By way of an introduction, I'd like to just take you back a little bit to the fall, when the superintendent shared with me a letter that she had received from one of our guests this evening, announcing the establishment of the Eleanor C. Dell Memorial Trust Scholarship Fund. And Ellie Dell, some of you may know her, but for those who may not, Ellie Dell was a longtime beloved teacher at North Reading High School. And over the course of the past several months, Attorney Latham, the superintendent, and I have been in a number of conversations around how this trust fund would be established and administered to the benefit of graduates of North Reading High School through scholarship awards. So Attorney Latham is here to make a very exciting presentation to all of you. And after he does that, I'd like to just ask for your indulgence to hear from a few other folks who had the good fortune of working with Ms. Dell over the years that she was a teacher at North Reading High School to I think bring some context and some enthusiasm around the very generous gift that she has left to this community. So with all of that said, I'm going to introduce to you Attorney Brad Latham.
Good evening. Ellen Adele was a long-term client of our office. When she was doing estate planning, she established a trust. In that trust, she named Jerry Iandoli, who was her nephew, as well as Mary Stabel, who was her best friend, as co-trustees upon her death. In the trust, she provided for different charitable gifts to be made. The determination of where the charitable gifts went was up to the trustees. The trustees who knew Eleanor well felt, with her dedication to education, that having a gift to the North Reading School District for a perpetual scholarship fund for graduating students from the North Reading High School would be consistent with Eleanor's love of education and caring for young students. So that's the background behind it, and obviously the trustees have selected North Reading as the primary recipient from that trust. And I'd like to ask if maybe Jerry might want to say a few words, and then actually Mary and Jerry would like to make the presentation of the funds to the town. Thank you.
Thank you. If my aunt was here, we would have needed more time. Ellie liked to talk, as we all know, and she was quite eloquent. But I know there are a lot of people here that have fond memories of her, and she would be so pleased that this is happening. And although one of the things that you always mentioned to me, that she never had any children, she always felt as though the students of North Reading High were her children. And I think she treated them such, and it was a life that was filled with caring. She was a good friend. She was a good teacher. And this gift that we'd like to present tonight will make her very, very happy. And I'd like to present this now because I know there are a few people that want to say a few words, but it gives me great pleasure for Mary and I to present this gift of $625,000 to the North Reading School. Thank you.
Watch her. Keep the camera on her the rest of the night, Phil. Thank you.
Not here tomorrow at work at 9 o'clock.
That's a number that'll open your eyes. That is incredibly generous, and to benefit the students of our district, to help them get to college and beyond college in the future. It's incredibly generous. I can't say any more about it. I don't know.
I'm at a loss for words. That never happens.
No, I was going to say.
That's
something you don't see very often.
awesome. Wow, that's unbelievable.
John?
Thank you. Jerry, thank you very much, and Mary. It's beyond words to think that such a gift has been made, so I'm sure she is. I did have occasion to meet Ellie a few times after she had retired, when she would come back to visit some of the folks who are here tonight to speak about her, and it was a joy to meet her. She really did bring some life into the room. She really was a wonderfully pleasant person. So I had asked some folks who had worked with Ellie over the years to come tonight to speak to all of you, and by way of the local cable to the community about Ellie. And I think it's a nice gesture on their part to be willing to come and speak about who was a wonderful friend and colleague of theirs. So I had asked Lil Deesman and Vicki Yablonsky and Joan O'Donnell, again, who had all worked with Ellie, to come and speak. And some of the friends who have tagged along, I don't know, you're welcome, and it's great. Again, I think it's a wonderful tribute to her. But Bob, certainly Bob Ward and Sue Kerwin, also had the good fortune of working with Ellie. You're all welcome to come to the microphone. But I know Lil and Vicki and Joan came prepared. So if you two want to throw something together now, that's great.
Bob's always prepared.
Bob doesn't
wait,
need
Bob
it.
doesn't need notes. Yeah.
Who's going first? Vicki, would you like? Okay, that's great. Thank you.
We always referred to Ellie Dell as a force of nature. If you didn't know her well, on the surface you might think she was a little flighty, but underneath she was a very intelligent and savvy person and a great judge of character. She had an outsized personality and a big heart to match. She was funny, with an irreverent sense of humor, and a lovely, generous person, proved by the reason we're all here tonight, the scholarship endowment she's established. Ellie was generous, but even more so with the time she gave to others, her friendship, support, and love. She was a mentor and friend to colleagues and to her students, and to a few administrators also. She truly loved her students and North Reading High School. She had a varied career and interests, including music and art, and she sang with the USO after World War II, but her true devotion was as an English teacher at NRHS for 30 years. One of the many stories from Ellie's career was the writing assignment she gave to students, to write a letter to themselves 5 years in the future, predicting where they expected to be or what they hoped to be doing. Then, 5 years after they graduated, they would find that letter in their mail. Ellie had not forgotten to send it to them. Ellie mothered many people during her time in North Reading. She wasn't known as Ma Dell for nothing. She was the first person to volunteer for school functions, always stayed to the end and helped clean up, and she was a fixture at the proms. It's hard to believe she retired 20 years ago because her spirit is still in that high school. Her death last year left a void in all our lives and in the fabric of NRHS. She's dearly missed, but her devotion to her students will live on through this legacy.
Very nice.
Lily, you should have gone first.
Yeah, you did.
That's good, dear. Ellie was my mentor when I imagined 1987, my first year at North Reading High School. She met me at the door, anything I needed. She was Mama Dell to all of us, very generous, very territorial in the cafeteria. Do not sit in her seat when you came in. And if you were late for lunch, she spoke to you because you needed your nourishment. So, and it didn't matter if you were in Joni O'Donnell's resource room or academic support room. If you were in the business department, English, she treated all the students the same. She was there. She was one of the last teachers to leave in the afternoon, 4:30, correcting papers with her red pen, making sure everything was punctuated. She is dearly missed. We had summers on Goose Rocks Beach up in Maine, and she'd ride her tricycle with her beach chair down, and she had her designated spot. And it was great times, great memories, and miss her dearly. And wish she was still here, but her generosity will live on forever. Joni?
We're gonna have to turn the whole system out of whack.
No.
John Bernard called me a few weeks ago and asked me to say a few words about Ellie Dell. I was somewhat in a quandary as to where I should focus my thoughts, teacher, colleague, or dear friend. I decided to say a few words on each category. As a teacher, Ellie was loved and respected by her students. She made each student feel special and that they had a significant place in her life. She convinced them that they could do whatever they desired or dreamed. In other words, reach for the stars. Many of them did, and she was so proud of them. Ellie taught all levels of students, from general to honor levels, and she made sure that the assignments were within their grasp. If not, she would make them so. Ellie's classroom was a happy and accepting environment. She would be waiting for them at the door with a glorious welcome. Her creative writing class was a wonderful opportunity for my students. If they missed a step on their way to the stars, Ellie was there to redirect them kindly and responsibly. Ellie and I taught together for 22 years at the high school. She was a senior teacher in the English department, and I was a learning disability teacher in the resource room. We understood and respected each other's position at the high school, and we exchanged ideas and strategies on a daily basis. This was extremely appropriate and worthwhile during our engagement in the Simmons College Master's Program. This program was designed to address the special needs of all students at the high school. In the end, Ellie and I successfully completed the program and graduated summa cum laude. Ellie passed away a year ago, and I miss her immensely. She was my best friend, and we shared everything. She was cheerful, determined, and always there for me. She was complex and private, and she had this notion about age, and we didn't realize her true age until the end. Similarly, she did not share her intentions of this wonderful gift with her friends. This is a complete surprise, and I'm sure that she is looking down at us with that beautiful smile on her face. Her friendship and love are precious gifts, and I shall treasure them forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Will, Vicki, and Joan. And you were introduced to Mary Starble, who was a longtime friend of Ellie. Her daughter is here this evening, Patty. Did you want to say a few words, too? This is Patty Starble Ford.
Hi. I met Ellie in freshman year at North Reading High School. She was my substitute French teacher. I think that was how I first met her. I never had her for English, but she was a substitute French teacher. And shortly after our meeting, and my seeing her energy and her vivacity and her wild, wonderful nature, somehow she mentioned that she knew my aunt. Somehow we talked about the fact that she knew my Aunt Madeline from Stoneham. They were very good friends. And I said, oh my, I have to tell my mother this. So I did. I told my mother that. And so Mary and Ellie became very dear friends. Hung out, spent their, oh my gosh, they were like sisters. So after many years of getting to know her slowly, my mother and she became very dear friends. And she became like an aunt to me. So starting off as a teacher, my brother also had her as a teacher, and my sister did. She became like an aunt to all of us children, and a sister to my mom. And so Jerry and I have a similar kind of connection where this is our auntie. And I've spent many winter vacations down in Florida with my mom and with Ellie. We've really had a wonderful time getting to know her as a family member. So in all of her amazing roles with all of the people that she's loved over the years, she holds a very dear spot in our family's heart. So we appreciate everything that this trust will do for the children she loved so much and the children of the future. So it's going to be a wonderful way to commemorate her life. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, well, on behalf of the school district, I just want to say thank you all very, very much. This is certainly a wonderful, wonderful tribute to Ellie and a wonderful gift to the students of today and tomorrow. So thank you all very, very much. Brad, it's been a pleasure to conversed with you these last several months. I'm sure those conversations will continue, and we're looking forward to that, believe me when I tell you so.
And I,
Mr. Webster, you-
I mean,
yeah,
I
thank
want
you.
to add that it's interesting that this is happening at a time when we're about to open a brand-new high school. And I'm sure Ellie would have loved to have seen our brand-new high school, and especially all the new classrooms and the new art equipment and the new everything we're going to have. But I think it's a great time and it would always be a great time to receive this money for our students, but this is an especially great time because there's a great deal of excitement now around the high school as students get ready to move up to that new school. And as I said, we are incredibly grateful. I don't know if anybody on the committee would like to make any other comments?
I see that, you guys have proposed a plaque and naming a room after Eleanor. And I think that's a great idea. Speaking as one member of the school committee and a member of the secondary school building committee, it would be an honor to put her plaque up in the new building.
I think we've had some discussion. Kathy, I don't know if you want to, talking about an art room, naming an art room, or...
What's the preference of the trustees?
Yeah.
Yes, we did receive a letter from Attorney Latham indicating that it would be also a wonderful idea for us to dedicate one of our new rooms, maybe an art room or maybe the teacher's lounge, to Eleanor in tribute for all that she has accomplished in North Reading and for the generous donation of her trust. And so we've discussed with the school committee, and they have received the letter, and we are interested in going forward and naming a location in the new facility after Eleanor. And it was also offered that a plaque would be created by the trust to memorialize the naming of that particular space for Eleanor Dell.
And we need to make sure this is done by the opening of school in September. This has
Yes,
to
it
be
will
in
be
place
done.
Well, the two questions I have is, one, do we have to decide the specific room tonight? And two, do we put Ellie Dell, Eleanor Dell, or Mama Dell on the plaque? I guess that's the question I have. I've heard Mama Dell so many times tonight. We can work that out, right?
I have an interesting story.
Yes.
See,
Yes, I agree.
okay.
I have an interesting story. I didn't know Ellie Dell, but we're going through our basement and reducing the amount of paper that we're storing there. And I've been going through it page by page to make sure I don't throw out anything that's really valuable, a good memento. And I came across a letter that, an essay that my daughter wrote about her future and what she wanted to do in her future and what her idea, one of the letters that obviously, and at the bottom it was great, are you sure you'll succeed in this? Well, she's now a teacher here in the school system, and it happens that essay actually did a pretty good job of forecasting her life. I'm sure the encouragement was helpful.
I'm relatively new in the community, and I just wanted to say, listening to the stories, it just underscores for me how important it is to have such strong relationships between students and teachers. There are so many bonds that students make with so many adults as they grow up and develop, and having someone like Ellie in a student's life, has made so many people successful, and I think that's her true legacy of all these students who have gone out there and actually done something, and also the teachers have been inspired by her example. I find that so moving, and I'm so grateful for the thoughtful gift that you've given our students so they can continue to be successful, and that's fantastic. I also think that we should name a seat in the lunchroom.
It has to be a seat, no, they can't.
Nobody can sit in it.
It has to be a seat that can't move.
Yes.
It has to be a stationary seat that cannot be moved. I wanted to add to what Karen said, and I also think it's, to me, it's an inspiration. Hopefully other people in the community think about what they can do for public schools. And for the kids in the public schools. I think we all know the cost of going to college today. and even in a community like North Reading, which is a fairly well-to-do community, there's a lot of kids who can't afford to go to the colleges that they want to go to, and any help we can give them is essential. And I think to get something like this, which will live on forever, well past any of us in this room, I think is just something really exciting that I've been on the board for 10 years. I know Jerry's been here, I think, 13 years. I hate to age you. 15 years. Sorry, Jerry. I've never seen anything like this.
No, this is overwhelming. Nothing's even approached this, and it's just, it's overwhelming.
So again, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the board and the school department. And now at this time, I'll entertain a motion. Cliff, will make a motion regarding the room.
I'd like to make a motion that we name the new 3D art room in the school after.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Kathy?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. We have
We'll
to-
need a motion to accept and establish the Eleanor C. Dell Scholarship Fund for the North Reading Public Schools.
Okay.
So moved.
Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. It's a great night for North Reading. Thank you again
Thank you.
very much. Thank you so much. Shake your hand.
Thank you very much. Very well said. No, just a little. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Made a difference in my life. Named her for someone. Yeah. It's about making people successful. That's exactly what she did.
He has a tuxedo. That's all impressive. Yep. Hold on.
I want to touch it.
So his mother's daughter. Yeah.
Daughter of Ellie Dell.
Is he gone?
I'll find out.
That's nice.
Don't go too loud.
Is
Is
it
it
a
made out to you?
Never seen such a large check.
Oh, my God. Oh, yeah. Picture that?
They made it up to the wrong people though.
Yeah. I would have been happy with the 15,000 for the Wouldn't that have been nice, just to get?
Why don't you get a picture with Kathy and some of those?
Wow.
don't think the committee needs it. Kathy. No, let Kathy and. Yeah. Kathy, why don't?
They have to get a picture. You have to get a picture.
Yeah, well, Kathy, John.
I'm not wearing my special occasion outfit, Mr. Beatty.
No, the chairman jumps over. The chairman.
Yes.
All right, the chairman will be.
This is people stop losses, contributions to the voting rights. Huh? I can donate $10. I can donate 10. Janine could probably donate $10. Sure. To get some of this done. I'll tell you. Yeah, but that should be fixed before they. Don't you think they should just let them hang them up? It's kind of right off of it.
See, now Thursday they had not laid the tile in the hallway.
The other thing they did when I was there Saturday, they turned on the lights.
Oh, did they?
The lights came on.
Oh, wow.
It was unbelievable.
Did you go in the bathroom and see they ripped it?
Same units, like they're getting all the this big. Oh, really? Same units in chunks. So the access all in chunks. Yeah.
Oh, wait, Michael's got the check now. Look right now. Oh, yeah.
I think it would be a nice gesture if you match that. And then get people to come in without the zero. We'll take it. Oh, my God.
Okay, that was quite exciting. It's not something that happens every week, every other week, or every 10 years. It's not something that happens. So it's wonderful.
It would be nice if we could get one more a week.
Yes. Now for the rest of our riveting agenda.
Not every week, once every other week.
Yeah, right. Okay, John, I know you're still here, so we wanted to call John up. He's got a couple of international trips to propose to us tonight. John?
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Some more exciting news, I think. I'm hoping you see it as such. I have with me tonight some folks to assist me in answering any questions you might have around one of our two travel experiences for students that we're proposing for the 2014-15 school year. I have our school adjustment counselor, Miss Jessica Buckley, and one of our humanities teachers, Mr. Nosey. You might remember Evan from an earlier presentation he made to you, I believe in December, around his contemporary affairs class. They, Jess and Evan have agreed to coordinate a trip proposal that we're seeking your endorsement of for next April school vacation to Berlin, Prague, and the Swiss Alps. You may recall that we have had international travel proposals before you in the past. We did not do a trip this year, but in the past we have gone to Spain, to Italy, to Costa Rica, and this is a trip that seems to be of high interest among staff and students, and with your blessing, we would like to go forward with planning for the trip for next April 16th through the 25th, 2015. There would be one day of school missed. That would be on a Friday, the Friday before vacation. So we certainly, I believe the superintendent provided you with an itinerary of the trip with some of the historic sites that would be visited. Very exciting, and I don't know if you have any questions or any additional information you might need.
It's open to every student at the school, provided they're in good standing academically.
Exactly. Yes. Grades 9, it would be through grades 9 through 12. Yep. And as you said, good student in good standing in the school community, correct.
And have you done any, you said there's interest, do you have any numbers of how many might be interested?
We
in
don't,
going?
because to be honest with you, before we get the blessing of the school committee, we really don't play it up too much because,
okay. We might
you know,
not.
we don't, if there were a case where maybe, and that may be the case tonight, I don't know, but if you didn't endorse the trip, then we wouldn't want to, you know, have too many students being disappointed. But
right.
If it does go forward, we do have an informational meeting scheduled for next Wednesday evening for parents and students that might be interested, May the 7th.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Kathy, you have anything you want to add?
No, in fact, as we were breaking up from our last presentation, one of the teachers pulled me aside and just wanted me to know that her daughter just had a very good experience with the EF tours, and couldn't say enough good things about this organization as a student travel source. So it was Lil Disman, and Lil would let me know if it wasn't something that she thought was a good product. So I feel very comfortable recommending this trip to the school committee.
I'm glad my daughter's graduating.
I said the same thing.
I know she would have been really after.
I think these are always a good idea. My husband went on one of these when he was in high school. It was a life-changing experience.
We went to Benson's Wild Animal Farm. We did.
Really?
And she's still talking.
Yeah, we went to Benson's Wild Animal Farm.
If I could, just on the superintendent's point, and I'm glad you raised that, Kathy. Lil's daughter actually went on this same trip, went with EF. We've used EF in the past as a tour company, but her daughter actually just came home this weekend from the trip for her April vacation. Very first thing this morning, I saw
Very
Lil, how'd it
positive.
go? And they didn't want to come home, so EF is a wonderful company to work with. We've had a very good experience with them, so thank you for bringing that up.
I think it's great because a lot of these students, when they get into college, are probably going to want to do a semester abroad, and this helps them to get acclimated to that. So
Very exciting.
Right. So I think it's well worthwhile to do trips like this. So unless anybody has any more questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion for the proposed trip to Berlin, Prague, and the Alps.
It was very close.
Okay, I'm going to give it to Janine. Motion to Janine, second by Karen. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Now a trip a little more closer to home, John, right?
Trip a little more closer to home.
A little more closer. A little closer.
A
That
little
wasn't
closer to
very
home.
good English.
So this is kind of a
That
new-
was, you should have corrected my English on that, John. That was awful.
What did
I
you
said-
say?
I said a little more closer.
Oh, yeah, that's not correct.
That's horrible.
That's not correct.
And I was an English major.
That's not correct. I was an English teacher. I should have picked up on that.
You should just say closer because it's
Right.
not
Sorry about
necessarily
that.
magnitude.
Go ahead, John.
I think it should have been close.
How about not as far away?
Okay, that's
All right,
good.
we'll go with that. So the second trip proposal is a little bit different. This is for a weekend in Quebec for, where, to be quite honest, this is an attempt to infuse some interest into our French program. And this proposal was brought to me by two of our French teachers at the high school, one of whom is new this year, Felicia Linehan, and a teacher who's not. You may know Kathy Cahill. The two of them had met with me in the late winter about this idea. And Felicia Linehan, this is her first year, as I said, at the high school, had worked previously in Reading. And interestingly enough, she worked with Kathy O'Connell when Kathy was working in Reading. And Kathy O'Connell was a chaperone on this very trip that they're proposing for the same reasons. They were trying to build some additional interest in the French program at the high school level. So what they did was straddle the trip with the students in grade 8 to, again, get them interested in French culture, French language, for them to pursue the study of French in high school. So this trip proposal is different in that it would be a trip for students grade 8 through 12. And there would be one chaperone from the middle school faculty. And again, I did speak with Ms. O'Connell before. I asked the teachers to entertain the idea further with the middle school foreign language teachers about the experience, and I don't think Kathy would mind my saying that she had all good things to say about it. She thought it was wonderful and was very encouraging of it, and hoped that it did go forward.
I think that the fact that we only teach 2 languages at the high school, we better be doing something to keep both of those alive. I think you know that all of us would like to see more languages at the high school. So, yeah, yes, exactly. C++. No, not those. So I think this is, again, well thought out trip and a great idea. Any questions or comments? I did notice one thing. This one has a student chaperone ratio of 10-1, and the German trip is 6-1.
The German trip is because EF establishes the ratio that allows for a chaperone, no fee for the chaperone at 6. So for every 6 students, the 10-1 for the Quebec trip is more in line with the policies.
That's our policy,
that North Reading
right?
has, exactly.
Right. Okay. I was just wondering why there was a difference.
That's the reason.
Okay. Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the trip.
Okay, a second? Motion by Karen, second by Janine. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Oui.
Oh, very good, Jerry.
Very good, Jerry.
I speak multiple languages.
Jerry's a Renaissance man. A lot of people don't know that, but he really,
I speak 2 languages, English and Big Latin.
that's... Anything else, John, tonight?
I think that's it for me.
I think that is it for you tonight.
right.
All right,
Thank you very
thank you,
much.
John.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Danka, very good.
Thank you to Evan and Jessica. as well.
Anybody know any Czech?
Thanks, A.J.
My daughter went to Czech.
Did she?
Yeah, when she was abroad for
The Chateau Frontenac is just
For a
beautiful.
she visited.
Yeah, visited, yeah. Okay. No, Czech Republic and Slovakia, yeah. Okay, trying to get back in order here. I think we're back to continued business, and we have an update on the school project, which, before I turn it over to the superintendent, believe it or not, I'm getting to days now. I believe the turnover date is August 17th for the school, correct?
I think that's correct, yeah. That's a date. Yeah.
111 days
Yeah.
from today.
To the turnover date?
Yeah,
Yeah. I usually go to September 8th.
111 days. It's getting really close.
It is getting really close.
Kathy?
Very exciting, with many, many details associated with that opening. The last secondary school building committee meeting was held on April 8th, and so there has not been another official meeting since the last school committee meeting. As you all know, the construction on the intersection between the high school and Route 62 has commenced. The access road to the high school is now closed. There's lots of signage on Route 62 as well as on Oakdale, directing traffic and also letting people know when they may not park on public roads during dismissal time. I would like to say today was the first day of that access road closure, and upon asking Mr. Bernard how it went, they had planned on delaying bells this morning in case there was any delay, and that did not need to happen. So everything went very well today, and he anticipates that will continue to the end of the school year. And so I'm not sure if either Mr. Bowers, or Mrs. Imbriano, or Mr. Venezia would like to provide any additional updates regarding the construction meetings or any recent site visits that you've had to the new facility.
Well, Janine was there Thursday, I was there Saturday, Cliff was there today.
So we're pretty well up to date.
Yeah, it's moving quickly on the finishing work, very
It's
quickly.
moving along.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the cabinetry is, casework, as it's called in the business, is in the high school already. not all of the pieces are together, so that you don't have very much of it installed. But that's because the manufacturer is manufacturing all of one at a time, and they can't install it because they don't have all the pieces. The tiles going down on the floor in the corridors, most of that is in on the top and middle floor. Hasn't been started on the lower floor. Distance learning lab is all painted at this point. Almost ready to put the slabs in for the raised seating. All the framework is in for that. That's cleaned up pretty well. A lot of doors in place for the rooms, really taking shape. When you get over into the theater, they're putting up the being put in place, and it's truly a bedlam in there. There's an awful lot of things going on. Over on the media center, that's not moving very fast right now, but that's just because that's a schedule of pushing other things. Main Street is coming along. They started the ceilings, the cloud ceiling wires were up today, and they started some framework for that. The entrance is now, it's got glass in it. Most of it has glass in it. They're working on that. The gym has all of the sound panels in, looking for the next coat of paint. They were hanging lights, light fixtures in the gym now. The equipment's coming in the next week. Let's see what else.
I'll just add one thing. When I was in there Saturday, the first time I've seen it, the lights came on. I mean, the real lights and the building lights.
The power is on.
So somebody put a switch on and the lights came on.
Didn't you have an issue, though, too, with color in the hallways?
I don't want to get into it. That's just
The chiller installation, they're
Yeah, I was very
missing
happy with it.
About 6 feet of pipe, and the chiller was supposed to be installed. And they were fitting out the heat exchanger for the hot water system. That was connected up today. So all in all, things are moving very well ahead. There's an awful lot of things that are in some stage of being done. It's kind of like one of my projects at home where my wife says, if you just finish something instead of having all these things head loose ends. But that's the way that the process goes. Coming along good.
Actually, Mr. Vencia said he was quite pleased in the atrium area. There's a nice reddish color in the
vinyl tile on
vinyl
the
tiling on
hallway
the
floor. I don't
hallway
know if it
floors.
was put in there by mistake or,
No.
or what, but it's very nice.
The guy that's been complaining about
No, he did. And I guess the color looks, the fact that the tiles are going down in the hallways is, that's a sign that we're really,
Oh, yeah.
really getting there.
I'll tell you, A building is getting pretty close to, big finish.
And we do have an SSBC meeting tomorrow night, correct?
Yes, we do. Beginning at 5:30 p.m. in the modular cafeteria at the high school.
I have a question. What are we doing to work with the residents on Dodge Road to ensure that they don't have level of disturbance that I know that they've talked about in the past with that access road?
Good question. The owner's project manager has spent a considerable amount of time communicating with the abutters along Dodge Road. Again, lots of signage has been put up so that people know they may not park there, that it needs to be kept open at all times because it is now the main egress or in and out. And really paying attention to the start and stop times of the workers traveling up those roads as well. So trying to make sure, today was the first day, so we want to make sure that we're hearing from the public if things are not going along as planned so that we can make sure that we correct them.
And how is graduation going to work in terms of parking? Is the parking situation the same, or?
Yeah, that's going to be
It's
interesting.
essentially the same.
Essentially the same.
Same.
We
We've got the
satellite
utility
park up
lot
at the
there,
middle
yeah.
school, and we will make sure that we have buses running to bring people down to the field.
I just know that people always park on Dodge Road during graduation, and
Right.
so Just want to make sure that doesn't happen, because that sounds.
No, that will not be able to happen, because again, that is going to be the main way in and way out, so that will be kept completely clear. We've, over the last 4 years that I have seen graduation take place, we've had plenty of extra spaces up at the middle school, so now I feel that they'll be pretty much utilized, and we'll use the buses to move people back and forth.
Okay. Next, we have approval of our fiscal year 15 budget. Michael?
Great. So this evening, there was a memo in your packet that includes the recommended FY15 budget motion. Again, there are no changes to our budget that has transpired over these last several weeks. We presented some the most recent change at the April 15th school committee meeting, which would essentially add an additional $40,000 of revenue to our final request, and that would help fund the digital learning coordinator position. So at this point this evening, the school department is looking for approval of a final budget amount of $26,764,015. This represents an increase of 4.4%, or $1,139,526 over the FY14 appropriation. So again, I think we're certainly pleased with how this process has transpired over the last several weeks. We certainly want to extend our appreciation and thanks to the members of the finance planning team for their collaboration and effort over really this entire process going back to the fall to put forward a budget increase of 4.4% this evening. So the budget does need to be officially voted at this point, so we can move forward with the article for the June 2nd town meeting. At this point, I'll open up to any additional questions, and the recommended budget motion is included in the memo in the packet.
Questions or comments? Jerry? I wanted to stress, I think, something that Kathy pointed out at our last meeting regarding the fact that she's met with administrators to alleviate some of the pressure and issues at the high school. We're going to be looking at teachers who are certified in more than one subject who we possibly can use to add 3 or 4 sections at the high school for some of the subjects where we have more students than per classroom than we'd like.
Excuse me. I would just like to state that that is an exercise that we go through annually when we're taking a look at the various needs that we have across the district and who has the appropriate license to move into those positions. But we really focused our efforts this year on the high school based on the conversations that were held at the hearing, the budget hearing on April 7th. So we're really focusing our efforts in that area during this budget time.
And I'd also like to thank all of our administrators, Michael and Kathy, the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, Town Administrator, Town Finance Director, and everybody involved in the finance planning team for working cooperatively to get this budget done and to get the town budget done, and both apparently balanced at this time. So unless there are any further questions, I will entertain someone reading the motion at the bottom of this page to approve our budget.
I move that this school committee approve and hereby adopt the final FY15 operating budget of $26,764,016. This represents an increase of 4.4% for $1,139,526 over the FY14 appropriation of $25,624,489.
Motion by Janine, second by Cliff. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
On to town meeting. Well, not now, but I mean, on to town meeting with the budget. Okay, next, the school committee self-evaluation. I was supposed to get those tonight. There's one member who was going to swing it by my house. No names, Janine. I won't mention any names at all.
Okay.
There's.
You're kidding.
Can you
It
believe
wasn't
it?
me?
She left it. No, you were the first one. I know.
On the night that we were told.
She said she left it on her table.
Well, the rest of us put some time.
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
She left it on her table, Jerry, at home.
She left it on the table.
As she went out, it was on the table. So I will take those results, and then the evaluation subcommittee has a meeting on May 16th, I believe, where we will be discussing that. And then are we bringing that back at the meeting after that?
That's correct.
Which would be, I don't know what the date is.
The date for that will be May 27th.
May 27th. Okay. All right. Thank you. Next, some changes in the school district calendar. Kathy.
Yes, thank you. Earlier this year, you voted to approve the 2014-2015 school calendar. Since that time, we've had a chance as an administrative leadership team to have some conversations, and we bring before you tonight a copy of the revised 2014-2015 district calendar. A copy is included in your packet. Just a couple of minor changes. We had an early release day scheduled for October 10th. We had an early release day scheduled for February 6th and a full professional development day scheduled for October 10th. We are recommending just switching those so that now the early release day will be in October and the full professional development day will be in February. We're not adding or taking away, we're just switching. And this is to accommodate the schedule of a mathematics consultant that's working with teachers in our district. The second change that's coming before you is based on a survey that was done by the middle school principal regarding a change in the way that parent-teacher conferences were held at the middle school this year. So previously, it was included in the calendar to have 2 early release days in November and 2 early release days in January for the purpose of parent conferences. What's now being proposed is 1 early release day in November and with a focus on academic open house, and then 3 early release days in January for the purpose of parent-teacher conferences. There are afternoon conferences and evening conferences. We're not adding any more early release days. We're simply moving 1 from November to January. And those are the proposed changes, and those are the only changes that will come before you for this calendar.
So let me pose a question to you.
Yes.
I get asked this on occasion, mainly by parents who have children in the school system, about the hassle of early release days. And I think if I count through this, is like 15 or 16 of them in the calendar. Is there any way to reduce the number of early release days and still do what we have to do in terms of professional development and parent-teacher conferences? Plus, it would help our lunch program also.
Well, at this point in time, the advantage of having early release days is for more regular opportunities for teachers to come together to collaborate around curriculum and instruction and assessment over the course of the school year, as opposed to maybe 1 or 2 episodes of a full day that are scheduled to the best of a school district's ability, but does not provide a sustained opportunity for those ongoing conversations, not only between teachers in a particular school, but between teachers at different grade levels. For example, between the elementary and the middle, those transition years are critical, and between the middle and the high. So the different models of professional development all serve an important purpose. Full days provide an opportunity for sustained professional development, more hours on a particular topic, or for a keynote at the beginning of the year, whereas early release days allow for teachers to come together over the course of the school year to practice things that they learn and bring back some information to another early release to have conversations about how well it went, how can we improve our practice, how did you implement it in your classroom, this is the way that I implemented it, and then improve practice over time. So I think both of those structures are very important, and our early release days are not only for the purpose of professional development. We only have 4 early release days, we added 1. We have 5 early release days for professional development. The other early release days have to do with parent-teacher conferences, or they have to do with a day before Thanksgiving, or at the end of the school year. Yes, that's my phone, and I didn't turn off the ringer. Thank you. Sorry about that.
I was wondering where that was coming from. You got
Sorry.
that, Dan? Whose phone that was? All right, I want to make
Shut
sure.
it off. hate phones. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I turned it off too. No, it's turned off twice. So it's a very good question. I think, we need to have these conversations on an ongoing basis, but in terms of best practice, I think a combination of early release and full days really meets the mission of what we're trying to accomplish within the schools.
In terms of the parent-teacher conferences, are we required to give early release days because the teachers are required to be there at night, or what is the?
It is part of the collective bargaining process.
Okay.
It is included in the contract.
I guess I empathize when almost 10% of our days are early release days with a lot of two-family working parents. So I just wanted to raise it, and if in the future there's any, maybe it's an issue for collective bargaining moving forward and other issues, because I think it can be a hassle. That's all.
It can be. I think one benefit that North Reading brings for parents is that we do have the YMCA on site in all of our elementary schools, and we do allow parents to enroll students just for the early release days,
that's good.
so that they do have an alternative, because parents do work.
Right.
I had to work when my children had early release days as well, but it was nice being able to have a daycare on site for the children to stay there, and I could pick them up later if I needed to.
That's good. Any other questions or comments on the calendar?
Second.
Motion by Karen, seconded by Jerry to approve the amended school calendar for 2014-2015. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. One question, now that winter's over, what is our last day of school this year?
We're on the same wavelength.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that as of today, pending no weather event, the official last day of this school calendar is Tuesday, June 24th, 2014. No weather event.
Tuesday, June 24th. Okay. All right, next, this was I asked Kathy to put this on the agenda. I'm not specifically looking for any action tonight. If there wants to be action, it's the letter that the PBD School Committee had written to the seeking an opinion on whether there's a conflict of interest by Mitchell Chester, the attorney, Mitchell Chester, the education commissioner, also serving as national chair of the park governing board. He has been cleared of any conflict of interest because there's no financial interest that comes back to him as a result of him serving on this park board at this time. I had just brought it up last week and wanted to see if our committee either wanted to send a letter of our own, wanted to take a vote in support of Peabody, or wanted to do nothing. Yeah, if you want to read that. I read it last week, but it'd be good to read that again. That'd be good.
We believe the decision of whether to abandon MCAS, a test which is a fundamental element of the 1993 Ed Reform Act that has led to the unprecedented improvements in student achievement in Massachusetts, in favor of PARC, a test which may prove autonomous but is as yet unproven theoretical, is one of critical importance. We believe also this monumental decision demands objectivity, fairness, and the impartial scrutiny of empirical data to determine the outcome. We believe that Mitchell Chester, by virtue of his role as national chair of the park governing board and other actions, represents a serious breach of trust, which is at odds with his primary duties and responsibilities, and at the very least gives the impression of bias towards park and compromises the decision-making process. Therefore, the Peabody School Committee, by unanimous vote, requests that you render an opinion on this matter. Sent to the Attorney General.
Right. So, if the board decides to, whatever the board decides to do, I just wanted to, I personally support this effort. I do question some of the wording where they say they believe this represents a serious breach of trust, because I don't think that a school committee can make that judgment. I don't think I can make that judgment. I do support them seeking further opinion on Mitchell Chester serving as national chair of the park governing board, and also
Didn't you just say, Mel, that he was cleared of any conflict of interest?
well, he was cleared by, I didn't bring that, he was cleared by two members of the Board of Education, I believe, or it was people involved with the Board of Education. It didn't go any higher than that.
Peabody got an answer.
They did.
Everybody got an answer that there is no conflict.
Right.
And they got the answer from a couple of people in the system that may have as much conflict as Mr. Trista has.
It just seems odd to me that the top person responsible for public education in this state, and who's going to have a vote and influence over, whether he has a vote or not, but influence over whether whether the park is approved or not, and the fact that he's the national chair of the park governing board seems to me quite odd. I don't know how that isn't a conflict of some sort.
Here comes the park. I mean,
Right.
It's as simple as that. How can he lead it and not
support
say
it?
we're going to do it?
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Well, I just don't support the tone of the letter from Peabody. I mean, if we wanted to, agree that this should be looked at as far as a conflict, or we wanted to even write a letter saying that we're not agreeing with PAC and being administered, but I just don't agree with the tone of the letter. I have no reason to believe he has bad intentions.
Well, I have a problem with that language also, where they talk about a serious breach of trust, because I just don't think that I can make that judgment at this time. So, I'm not asking for the committee to take any action. I just wanted to raise this again. I wanted to lend my personal support to getting further opinion, not specifically to some of the language in this letter. And also not to say we don't want throw park out, because we're still testing it. I mean, it could turn out to be a better test than MCAS. And I'm not crazy about standardized testing on the whole, but, park could turn out to be better than MCAS once it is fully trialed. I know we had some issues with it. We're not fully done with it yet, right? Because I think one school still has to.
End of year.
Is that the little school?
That's the Batchelder School.
The batch, 3rd grade, right?
5th grade.
5th grade. Still has to go through the end of year testing.
That's correct.
And I know we had issues with the technology, and if it is implemented on a wider scale, I don't know where we're going to get the technology to handle it properly.
It's a challenge.
So, go ahead.
I really think that this is all politics. So there is a conflict of interest that is non-financial. I think that's as plain as day to most people, but it's kind of an odd thing. One cannot know whether he's influenced or not. But we're influenced by many different constituencies, whether we officially serve in different capacities or not. So I think the point is moot, particularly when our only avenue to make a query is to the Attorney General's office, of which, the Attorney General is running for governor.
That's true.
So I don't think we're going to get a different answer. What matters is whether or not our students have equal opportunity and access to a test, if they're comfortable taking the test, so they can be adequately measured and be successful in learning from it. And if our students are not set up for that success by virtue of the fact that we don't have technology, or that the technology is not working, which we have found, and many other technical issues, then I think our time is best served highlighting the things that we've learned from this process and sharing that feedback with the commissioner so that we can directly inform that process. I don't think he has any ill intentions, but again, I don't know. And most of the things that we do are influenced by so many different mandates we have no control over. We can get into a discussion about the fact that our local control is being eroded in so many different ways.
Right.
To me, which affects student achievement. That's my personal opinion. It all goes back down to how we can help our students be successful. So I think if we keep our eye on the prize and make that argument, and we can use MASC to make that argument and to serve as our professional organization. I'm assuming MASS has also done similar things, talking about their experiences with the tests, making sure that they're implemented before they're fully vetted and tested and approved. And if we make a shift from MCAS to PARC, that we do it knowingly all of the state.
That's actually a good question, Kathy. So what is a timetable? What is the plan next year for PARC/MCAS?
Well, it's interesting you should ask. Just prior to this meeting, late afternoon, I received an email from MASS, my professional association of school superintendents, informing me that there will be a meeting on May 19th with high-level officials from the Department of Ed, informing us of what our options are regarding MCAS versus PARC. We must submit what we are going to do next year to the Department of Ed in early June. So I'm glad that we have this informational session coming up on May 19th to guide us with our decision-making process prior to the required implementation date. Patrick Daly will be going with me
So
to
are
this
we-
MASs presentation.
But are we getting an option next year?
Well, that's what we're going to hear. We
Oh, you
don't
don't
know if
know yet.
anything has
Okay.
changed based on some of the field testing regarding parks. So we're looking forward to hearing what the options are.
Because my concern is if the district's given an option next year to give MCAS or park, then you give park, how do you correlate the results to the years of results from MCAS? And
We
how
have
do you
many
correlate
questions.
that to student evaluations?
Mhm.
I just don't see how you do it. I'm sure they're gonna come up with methods, not necessarily methods that we'll approve of, but it's puzzling to
And
me.
just to complicate matters even more, next year is the first year of using student data in the educator evaluation
Right.
system. So we really have many questions regarding the changes, what's being proposed, and how do we use the state mandated standardized testing student growth percentile if everything is changing.
You know, they're trying to do so many things at the same time.
Too many.
And how do they really know that they're going to be successful and how that aligns with students and their interests? And honestly, I think that's our job is to align those interests. But I mean, we have so many different mandates and we're supposed to help people. You know, we're supposed to stop kids from being bullied. We're supposed to make sure they don't get concussions. We're supposed to make sure that they achieve academically, we can measure it, and hold teachers accountable for that. Pick something and do it well. And that's just my personal point of view. You know, to me, this is what this is all about. I don't want our students to be shortchanged, and I want to make sure our teachers are successful in helping students get to where they need to be. This is very confusing.
It's very stressful. I will tell you, the educators are feeling the stress.
I can imagine.
You know, they either should have, if you're going to introduce a new educator evaluation system, that a large part of it is dependent on student results on standardized tests. You don't change the standardized test the first year that you're putting that evaluation system into place. That kind of makes sense to me. So I'm hoping we can give MCAS at least one more year. I think it would be really difficult switching over to the park system in the middle of the stream.
You're just disqualifying all of the results you get. Just
Right.
Who knows what they are.
I'm looking forward to this workshop.
Now, I know we're not going to get any results back from our students taking park.
Correct.
But will you get any kind of feedback in terms of we're changing the tests because of X or Y or?
Well, Pearson, who is the vendor for Park, has put out a survey asking for input. And so they are collecting feedback from educators and administrators around this field test process. And they claim that they will use this information to make changes or modifications to the test to improve the implementation. I'm not quite sure how that information will be shared back with us, or if it will, but they are soliciting input.
Okay.
So that's a good thing.
So at this time, I don't think there's any, I don't see a move to put together our own letter or take a formal vote on this letter. However, as I said, I personally support Peabody looking for further opinion. And as Jerry mentioned, I don't necessarily support all the language in this letter. I do support what Karen said. I think it's in our best interest to, if whatever test we're going to be doing, to make sure it's done right. If we're going to be using technology, to make sure the state, to do what we can to make sure the state provides us and other districts with the funds needed to properly give these tests with the technology that we need.
We haven't ever supported any of the other ones.
I know that. I know
Why
that.
shouldn't we start
I know that.
now?
Because we already know, Patrick already told us we had some technology problems, and that was with a small study group, not the full
That's correct.
gamut of kids who will be taking the test under.
We're probably not the only ones, and much of what I've read on Park, I'm not sure how much of it I can take as assured information, because the people who were reporting seemed to know too much about what went on and the questions and the answers, and there was too much information, and we haven't been made privy to all of that, so I suspect that others haven't as well. So I'm questioning where, the source of what
Right.
went with that. But some of the stuff is horror stories.
Right.
We got third graders trying to decipher something that's in a fifth grade level, and trying to use the computer to construct sentences when they have no idea what the keys are all about. Well, of course, most third graders now know all about the keys, so I'm not sure about that. But they probably don't type all that fast, maybe.
No.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
So when Kathy and Patrick come back from the workshop, and we hear a report on that, which write to us to tell us what's happening. I think we should have another discussion about just thinking about our options in terms of, sharing our feedback with the state. And, I'm not for angry memos, but I'm really, really interested in op-eds that might be persuasive.
I think that's a good idea.
Potentially about thoughtfully implementing this. I think that still holds true no matter who's, so we would reconsider that.
Okay, and when did you say that? When's that hearing?
Our workshop is on the 19th, so it would be at the May 27th meeting, where
Okay.
we would come back and report to
All right.
you what our findings are.
Okay, Cliff?
I think there's an advantage to having Peabody do the letter that they did.
Yeah.
It highlights that there may be an issue here. And we won't know whether there really is an issue for a year or so. And at that point in time, of course, the horses will all be out of the yard. But at the same time, we'll be able to recalibrate based on what happens in the future. And we have something to go back on, that there's a tick mark here in the ledger that says, Peabody complained about this.
Right. Okay. All right, so we'll talk about it at the meeting on the 27th. Okay, thanks, everybody. Okay, next, we have to hold our annual school choice public hearing and vote. So at this time, I will open the public hearing to discuss school choice. And Kathy, if you could explain to us, as you do every year, what school choice is, and then we can have any discussion and then move to a vote.
Yes, under the Education Reform Act of 1993, there is a need to hold a public hearing on school choice annually. Becoming a school choice district means that North Reading will accept students from other cities and towns for enrollment in its schools. Once a student is accepted as a school choice student, he or she remains a student in North Reading until graduation or until the student opts out to withdraw. The district receives an additional $5,000 from the sending district's Chapter 70 funds for each student accepted. And so the school committee needs to discuss whether or not it wants to entertain school choice, and whether or not you want to participate, and you must take a vote every year by June 1st.
Any comments on this? I don't think we've ever been a school choice district. I know some of our neighboring communities, especially on the North Shore. I think there's a lot of more school choice districts on the North Shore than there are around here. Is Hamilton Wenham or Masconomet?
Masco was. I don't know if they still are.
Yes, most Triton Regional, Newburyport, Amesbury, Ipswich. It's mostly localized to those cities and towns in specific areas of the state. Cape Ann, so we have Rockport, Gloucester, Manchester, Essex. They're also choice, and there are other areas of choice. As I said, across the state. I'm most familiar with the Northeast.
Okay.
I worked in a school choice district.
Yeah, I was just looking at Triton.
And when
There are a lot of districts actually that accept school choice.
when you were in Triton, how did it work? Did you was there a limit on the number of students that could come in? And
Well, every year we would work with principals to identify what are those grade levels where there are openings where you could accept students. Because once you become a school choice district, you cannot deny entrance of any student for any reason if you have an opening at that particular grade level for which that child is applying.
what determines whether you have an opening or not?
Well, it depends on the class size. So
Okay.
if you have a guideline of class size, and you are under that guideline by a certain number of students, and you think that more students won't move into your district, then you would open up a couple of seats at that grade level for school choice. And again, once you open it up to school choice, it's open to sending any district.
What are the I've never been able to figure out what the advantages are of being a school choice district, because you get $5,000 and it costs you $13,000
The point is, though,
to.
if you're filling a space that's available, it may not necessarily be costing you the $5,000. It's a little tricky, and I don't think monetarily it's risky.
You're taking Chapter 70 funds away from a school district, right off the top of the cherry sheet.
But Mel was saying you're only getting $5,000.
Right.
You're getting $5,000.
But you had an empty seat.
If you have an empty seat, nothing, as long as you operate that way.
$5,000 benefit.
I guess,
As long
yeah.
as you operate that way.
But if you have people if you have students leave, you
But we
lose the
have-
money.
We have, our classes are all full.
Yeah, I mean, under a situation where you have fiscal constraints and you just went through a budget process where you had some reductions in personnel and staffing, the best situation to become a school choice district, in my opinion, has always been if you can use the additional, funds that you think you would identify in an area for enhancements or one-time or purchases that will enhance the district. But in a situation where we would most likely need to use any additional revenue just to hire the staffing to cover the additional students coming in, given most of our class sizes are full, financially, it doesn't seem to be a wise decision.
But so there are districts that I've been told they participate in school choice every year, and they basically have an outflow of students. What is the? I mean, I just don't get the purpose of that. There are districts on the North Shore that lose
Right.
many more students than they gain.
Yeah.
If all your classes were full,
True.
Yeah.
Right. No, you're right.
then you could get.
I just want to tell you that my experience with school choice has not been a positive one. It's based solely on perception. We would survey parents as to why they were taking their children out of the school, whatever school it was at Triton Regional. And a lot of it had to do with convenience. They were sending their child to a school district that was closer to where
Right,
they
closer,
worked.
yeah.
That was
Right.
the predominant reason. So school choice is intended to give parents choices around what the best educational opportunity is for their child. But I found that most of the reasons why parents took their children out of the school had nothing to do with the curriculum. It had everything to do with what was convenient. And so when you start taking increments of $5,000 away from a school budget that is bare bones to begin with, you're starting to erode the educational program of that particular school district. For what? I don't know.
And do the parents in those communities demand school choice?
No. But once you agree to school choice, it's very hard
Okay.
to stop accepting students,
Okay.
because now you start to rely on those funds
Right.
as part of your operational budget, as opposed to what
Right.
Michael just said, for one time.
Right. It's usually, it's an
Purchases.
influx of funds in year one, and it becomes a reliance on it, and just becomes kind of an operating offset, similarly to our other offsets in our revolving accounts, like transportation,
Yeah, because those
that
open
we
seats,
rely on.
open seats in year one may not be open seats
Right.
in year two.
Right.
You may
Right.
have a different balance of
Yeah.
classroom size that's going
Right.
to result.
And then if
in
the
you having to-
situation, we have building projects going on, the economy could very much improve, and, in migration could continue over the next, 5 or several years in North Reading, and then you could potentially have a situation where you don't have the space in certain situations for the students coming in.
I don't know of any school committee member here in North Reading that's ever voted in favor of this. I don't like the idea. I don't
No.
think it's a good idea.
I actually support school choice as an idea, but I don't think it's done well.
Oh, no, not the way it's implemented, right. I think
I think that's the issue.
yeah.
It's a great idea, but it doesn't really work, and it may not work in all circumstances.
I think
Right.
it stinks.
Well, that's totally fine, but I just don't see the evidence in this state. In other states, you hear tons of things about how well it works, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it doesn't work here.
One thing I don't understand is the motion.
I know, we've had that motion for
15 years.
with David
At least,
Troughton,
yeah,
right.
for 15 years we're making that motion. I
And-
don't understand it, I don't get it, but that's the motion, I guess, that covers us as far as choices made.
Any other comments before I close the public hearing? Because I don't see any members of the public standing up to
No,
be
this
counted
is
on
not a
this.
big
No,
issue.
this is not a, hasn't drawn too many to this public hearing. All right, this time I'll close the public hearing, and we can proceed to a vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to not participate in school choice because the program as it is presently constructed ensures that the needs of some of the children of the Commonwealth cannot be met. I didn't read that.
I'm glad you made that.
I made that up.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Jerry, second by Janine. I like to call that the David Troughton motion because that's been in place since I think David been in the district. I think he invented that. Yeah.
It's 93.
You can ask him. Bring the paper and ask him. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Next. That was good. I enjoy it also. Custodian contract agreement. Michael?
So we have been involved with custodial negotiations with the union, and at this point we've come to an agreement. And some of the highlights of the contract agreement include a 3-year contract that would include cost of living increases of 2% in the first year, 2.5% in the second year, and 2.5% in the third year. Some of the other items that are included of note in the agreement would involve a couple of changes to some additional benefits and compensation around longevity and how vacation is paid out. These agreements have sunset clauses attached to them, meaning that they officially go into effect for any employee that is hired after July 1st of 2014. And that would include the elimination of all longevity for all employees hired after July 1st, 2014, as well as a change in the vacation, accrued vacation time that's available. Currently vacation based on your years of service ranges from anywhere from 10 days to 30 days. And an agreement was made for employees hired after July 1st, 2014 for vacation to range between 10 days and 20 days. Another item of note would be a change starting in the second year of this agreement in terms of how their uniform or clothing allowance is paid out. Currently, there's a $450 allowance that is essentially paid out through payroll as part of a stipended payment, and this would involve changing that, really shifting that to accounts payable and requiring receipts to be received and reviewed to make sure certainly the purchases were made as was designed in the contract for shoes and clothing allowance. Some of the other changes were really evolved around sort of language and cleanup language involved in the contract. I think those were the main highlights. So let's open up to any questions at this point.
Questions or comments?
I think you did a great job negotiating this. I think it was Mike and I were also involved.
Cliff?
Cliff. I think it's in the direction that we've been trying to go in, and quite frankly, I think the custodial staff has done a great job for us too. So I'm glad they were able to come to an agreement.
I agree. I think one of the things, when we've been negotiating contracts over the past several years is to try to eliminate some of the extra benefit, and what we like to consider extra benefits. Maybe the union doesn't, but things like longevity payment, reducing some of the sick day buyback clauses, et cetera, and some of the other. So while I was hoping we would stay with the 2% cost of living raise, I think it's well worth it going to 2.5% over the last 2 years to get things like the elimination of the longevity payment. And it'll take a while for that to show up, but once it does start showing up, the savings that we get from that will be much more than what we're spending by going to 2.5% over the last 2 years of the contract.
Right. Absolutely, yeah, that's true. It certainly almost more than double the additional cost of going to 2.5% in those final 2 years. So there would be significant savings,
I think it's
certainly in the
important
future.
to keep the people we have by paying a competitive wage too with other towns. I mean, like I said, I think we have one of the better custodial staffs around.
They do a great job.
Yeah. They do a great job, and they have, Wayne, I think, does a great job managing not much more than a bare bones staff. We don't have a lot of extra people, and especially next year, we're not going to have a lot of extra people in our custodial maintenance staff, and I think they do a great job. Any other questions or comments on the proposed custodian contract, which runs through July?
Through June 30th of 2017 or fiscal year 2017.
Right, so it goes from July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2017.
Correct.
Correct, okay. Can I have a motion to approve the proposed custodian contract? Motion by Cliff, second by Karen. Further discussion? All's in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Great job, and we are moving along on some of our other negotiations, and hopefully at least one will come to fruition within the next few weeks or month, and we'll be able to vote on that also. Right.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, Kathy, I did want to ask, just going back to the scholarship fund presentation tonight, which is, I'm still blown away by that amount of money. It's just incredible. Who is put in charge of deciding how many scholarships are given? Will it be for English students who want to major in English and the arts, or how is that decided?
There is a list of criteria that is associated with oversight of the scholarship fund. It was proposed by Attorney Latham when he first sent the letter to us, and I looked at it, and then he and John reviewed it. So there will be a scholarship selection committee that will be established.
Okay.
So we have general parameters that have been identified. So the principal needs to remain intact, and whatever that scholarship principal makes will be what we can award annually. So depending upon what comes to bear, we'll be able to identify how many scholarships we can award. And the scholarships are not just for a graduating senior. They can reapply for that scholarship all throughout their college career.
Oh, okay.
And also apply for it if they intend to go to graduate school. So those are some of the parameters that have been laid out in the selection criteria. And that will be discussed between the members of the selection committee. And the criteria indicate that the superintendent and the high school principal will identify who the selection committee will be among high school.
And will they also determine the numbers of scholarships and the amounts of scholarships each year?
Yes, they will, depending upon what the principal is able to make in the market based on the investment.
And by principal, you don't mean John Bernard, you
No,
mean
by
principal.
the amount of money that's
Yeah.
invested.
I just want to make sure we got that straight, that John won't be investing this money. And it'll be invested by the town, correct?
Yes,
By
the town administrator will oversee the investment.
Okay.
Not the town administrator, I'm sorry, the town
Town-
accountant, the town treasurer.
Town treasurer, okay. All right, I just wanted to, yeah, finance
Town
director.
finance director.
Okay, any other questions on that scholarship fund before we move on? Okay, minutes, we didn't have any tonight. Budget update, none. Staffing,
None at this time?
we do have a donation, which I have so much paper, I think I have it here. The North Reading School District seeks acceptance of a donation of $3,300 from the Athletic Boosters Association to help fund the cost of uniforms for the boys and girls track team. And at this time, I will accept a motion to accept this with gratitude. Motion by Cliff, second by Janine. Further discussion? All's in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous? Thank you, Athletic Boosters, that's very generous. And then we have a second donation. It's on behalf of the North Reading Community Impact Team. We congratulate your department on your commitment to end bullying in all forms. We wish to support your efforts by donating some children's literature to the school department as listed below. These titles are named by parents and children as top titles to help children learn about the serious issue. As you know, we aim to positively impact the lives of North Reading residents of all ages for years to come. Please consider our donation at your convenience. This is from the North Reading Community Impact Team, and it's a list of several books that will be donated to the Batchelder, Little, and Hood schools, as well as to the North Reading Middle School. So again, I will entertain a motion to accept with gratitude. Motion by Cliff, second by Janine. Further discussion? All's in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Thank you very much, North Reading Community Impact Team. Okay. Subcommittee updates. The first issue on subcommittee updates is I we had asked Michael to take a look at potentially funding some additional coaches for the fall sports season, mainly girls and boys soccer. I think we're looking at an assistant coach for now. So Michael, if you could provide us with some information here, if you could go over that.
Thank you. So in your packet this evening, based on the request that came forward at the last meeting, is a detailed breakdown of our athletic program expenses and revenue projections over the next couple of fiscal years. So what I actually included FY12 and FY13 actuals, as well as kind of where we're at to date with our FY14 expenses, and then projecting towards into fiscal 15. So in some highlights of the report, I think, as you can see, we certainly continue to run a very tight ship and expenses with our revenue projections, and what our general fund subsidy is of the program continues to be certainly very, very, very tight. As you look at the report and the detail that's provided under the various expenses, you can kind of get a sense of what some of the trends have been over the last few fiscal years and what's going to be happening going forward. Certainly costs, are certainly rising. I'm going to highlight a couple. When you look at athletic transportation, for instance, we negotiated and went out to bid a year ago and signed a new contract last June. That contract actually included some increases to our athletic transportation hourly rates when we look at the waiting period that is included in that contract. So as a result, the cost impact of the new rates and the rate increases is about, it's between $17,000 and $18,000.
Yeah, that's really big, yeah.
Which is, certainly a large increase that we've had to absorb, this fiscal year. Some of the other additional costs, you certainly look at things like rental. We have the ice rink rental contract, which, certainly goes up on an annual basis. You have other rental in part that's been required because of the building project, and that is the tennis facility that would certainly need this year and one more year of rental to get through the building project. So we'll see some relief there, but not in the near future in terms of next fiscal year. And there are certainly other expenses that just as the needs arise, that kind of go up on an annual basis. So I would say, yes, that it is true that we've also experienced an increase in revenue with some increased participation, in part due to some rising enrollment. We could certainly make some predictions and some projections next year that would continue to occur, given the influx of about between 35 and 40 students. One thing I will note on gate receipts is the gate receipts for the annual Thanksgiving football game does alternate between Linfield and North Reading and who takes in those receipts.
And next year we don't have.
So next year we don't have that. So one thing that you'll notice in fiscal 14, you see the gate receipts, that amount's a little bit higher than it was in FY13, and then the anticipation, that's why the FY15 projected amount's a little bit lower, is because we will not be taking in the full amount of the gate receipts for the Thanksgiving football game. So I think in conclusion, I know there's a lot of detail here. There's also been a couple of projects that have propped up this year that we've agreed on the athletic subcommittee and so forth, given safety and because of that we've had to move forward and get done. And that was the stadium netting project, which is being done as we speak, which is about a $6,000 cost impact to.
I think it's done.
It's done.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Looks good, yeah.
Very good. So as a result, I think we also, when we built the fiscal 15 budget, we certainly tried to maintain the general fund expense subsidy on the expense side at $74,000, and then you can see from the coaches' general fund standpoint, that just goes up a little bit annually each year because of the contractual rates and so forth in the teachers' contract. We tried to maintain that as level funded and so forth, and we did that when we put the fiscal 15 budget together, in part with the understanding that some of the additional revenue that you can see that the revolving account is bringing in on an annual basis, from 245 to 260, we're close to 274 this year, 275 this year, that would help absorb the additional costs, particularly around transportation and the rental and so forth that has incurred. So you can look at what we've carried over in that revolving account on an annual basis. And you can see kind of the, what's changing. This year, I'm projecting that because of some of the additional expenses around stadium netting and so forth, that we would, the amount of available carryover that we brought in fiscal 14 would go down slightly by a little over $6,000. So the projection is that we would carry over a little over $16,000. And then again, because of the transportation contract and these additional rising costs and trying to maintain level funded general fund subsidy in the program, I am anticipating using somewhere in the range of $8,000 of what we would carry over to balance fiscal 15's budget. So in short, that does not leave us with a large available balance of kind of discretionary spending to repurpose elsewhere. The projection here is a little over $8,000. So, I think tonight, it would be hard for me tonight to recommend, that we sort of initially, go forward at this evening to appoint additional coaching positions that would probably be in the range of about $8,000 to $8,500, because it doesn't leave us with any kind of unforeseen room to deal with the unexpected as it arises in the athletic program. And you saw things this year, especially with the building project going on, some unanticipated expenses can certainly arise. One thing I could note that, we're still closing out the fiscal year. There's still 2 months to go that, we can kind of see how this year closes out and see what the picture is, and if these projected amounts in 14 are realized, or maybe things are a little bit better in terms of expenses not being quite as high as we're anticipating, to see where we're at that point. I think that would be my recommendation this evening, but I think I'll open it up to any questions.
Questions?
No. Again, it may not be a bad idea, Mr. Chairman, to wait till sometime near the end of the fiscal year to see where we stand.
Yeah, I think we need to make a decision though in June, because we'd have to get candidates if we're going to bring. I do have a question, Mike, and that's on the user fees. You only have them going up by 2,000 for next year, 243
Right.
to 240. And if we're adding 35 to 40 students, you got to guess that at least half those kids are going to be playing a sport, right? Say 20 kids times $400, so there's 8,000 alone just on one sport.
Right. I would say it's a conservative estimate.
Okay.
It's hard to predict that year to year. I think this year we saw some large increases, certainly in the spring numbers, in some sports. The track team saw an increase of about 18, 20 athletes on the boys' side. So I would say it's hard to predict, because you just never know the dynamic of each class kind of moving through the building, and then the 8th grade class coming in. It's to really count on that. I think you can certainly look at the trends and see, we should see an increase there. But it is a difficult number to predict on an annual basis.
Do we have, I guess, we don't have an indication yet as to how many students we might be losing from the 8th grade class coming up to freshman year, right? I think it's going to be pretty, so say the class is 240 something, the 8th grade class, Kathy?
Yeah.
So say we bring 230 students in, right?
Yep.
That's a pretty big increase over the 12th grade class that's leaving. I think we're going to collect more in fees, because I'm going to guess that at least half those kids are going to be playing sports. I don't know.
Well, I think the subcommittee's concern was that if we have increased participation,
want-
particularly in the spring,
Right.
particularly in sports like soccer, the last thing we want to be doing is cutting kids, because we can't have 27, 28 kids on a varsity team and 27, 28 on a junior varsity team.
With one coach, too.
Yeah, with one coach. So
Yeah.
we were hoping to at least keep as many kids participating as possible. And we felt the only way to do that was, after talking to the athletic director, obviously, was to hire additional coaches. But taking a look at the budget,
Yeah.
I think if we waited until the end of the fiscal year to see how
agree.
things pan out, and that would still give us time to do something prior to the start of school in September. So.
Right.
But the last thing I want to see is us cutting freshmen
Right.
athletic teams, because at that age, you don't know what their potential is going to be down the road. So.
That's my big concern too, because with that big freshman class coming in, and those are the kids that'll end up getting cut, because we just won't have a space to put them, so.
We have 2 meetings in June 9th, and on June 23rd.
Let's wait.
June 23rd?
Yeah, let's make a decision on the 23rd. Okay. All right, next, Mr. Venezia, anything to enlighten us
Well, the mask
on the
bulletin
mask bulletin? Yeah.
came out. I think there's several areas that concern us. One, and everyone's probably aware of this, but the Chapter 70 funds were funded to the extent that they would be able to provide an additional $25 per pupil for each district, for every district. I think that this was adopted by the House and Senate, and I think it's the level funding basically. I think
Yeah.
Chapter 70 with an increase that would allow for this $25 per pupil. The circuit breaker was fully funded, and I think the Ways and Means Committee recommended an additional $5 million on the circuit breaker, which according to this is the highest funding for this account since its inception. And I think the circuit breaker is used 100% to fund out of district tuitions above a certain base amount that we. And then finally, on this homeless transportation thing, I didn't think it really applied to us, but I noticed in the budget that Mike had proposed, I think there was some money allocated for this. And this is an area where it's funded for the state at $7.3 million, which apparently, according to the mass quote, is not nearly enough to cover the cost of this transportation.
So our homeless transportation cost, it's true, has been rising.
Yeah.
We saw a significant increase this year as the year went on. Historically, we had spent somewhere in the range of about $5,000 to $6,000 in total for the year on homeless transportation. This year, we're actually spending, close to $20,000, and that's what we are actually budgeting next year. So it's a trend that's very consistent across the Commonwealth. Districts are seeing an increase, in these expenses.
They're not funding it, obviously.
So this is an initiative that was started a year ago, and we were very pleased to see that this be supported, to put in a reimbursement amount. So last year it actually ended up being close to fully funded.
Oh, it did.
In the first year, we got almost about 90%. So we actually spent a little over $5,000. We got $4,800 in reimbursement. But again, because of the way it's the statute reads, it's actually a general fund revenue. So it's something that goes into the town's general fund as opposed to in a revolving account. But it's certainly helpful, and it certainly comes back to us through the revenue plan. Supporting this and getting this certainly close to 100% fully funded would be certainly helpful to us. It's about $20,000 is what the
$20,000.
Now, is that to pay to transport students to their schools or to transport students to come back to our schools? What are we actually paying for? Both.
Yeah.
So.
They have the option of either staying at the school that they were at.
Right.
If they lose their housing.
Right.
Or, they can come, Reading, if they're in between, if they're a doubled up family. If they were attending Northern Public Schools,
Yes.
now they're living with another family in another town.
Yeah.
we transport.
Okay, so we cover
It's
both.
shared.
We cover
It's shared.
students who might be living in North Reading and are going out to the school that they were attending, and students who who were in North Reading schools, but now living outside North Reading. We also pay transportation for them to come.
If they want to stay in it.
Okay. Okay. All right, any questions for Jerry?
The Rod, just read it yourself.
I actually already read it, so, all right. Next, subcommittee schedule, we have policy subcommittee, April 30th, finance planning is May 9th, athletic subcommittee, May 13th, and the evaluation subcommittee, I believe we're meeting on May 16th now at 10:45, right? If Janine can make it.
Janine can make it.
Make it.
I think I requested it after, 10:45.
It was gonna be at 10, we moved
But
to
that was the
10:45.
15th, now it's back on the 16th.
It's back on the 16th, so,
Is that
okay.
okay?
all right. Okay, administrator report, anything?
What you have in front of you is the spring calendar of activities for
All
the
right.
high school. It's double-sided. It's really not part of an administrative report, but I wanted you to see all of the activities that have already started to take place as we close out the school year at the high school.
Graduation is June 6th.
That's correct.
It'll be a beautiful night. We will be outside this year. We won't
Lovely.
be inside again. It's gonna be beautiful.
It'll be lovely.
And, that'll be exciting. Yeah, inside last year.
Yes, it was.
Any correspondence?
None at this time.
Okay. Our next meeting is, let me guess, no, May 12th, and we're meeting at the Hood School that night. And then May 27th at Town Hall. And then Monday, the 2nd, is the first night of town meeting. And we will meet 6:30, half an hour before town meeting starts.
In the library?
In the library, yeah. Okay, this time we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Good night.